Good morning. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 10th Edgewood High School Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I'm Josh Glemmer, the proud assistant principal currently at Edgewood High School, here representing Principal Kilo Mack, who couldn't be with us today. On behalf of the school and the EHS Alumni Association, co-sponsors of the Hall of Fame program, I am thrilled to see this day, especially after last year's cancellation due to COVID pandemic. I want to personally thank the folks here at the Epicenter for providing the venue for our 10th induction ceremony. We regret that, because of our COVID restrictions, for the first time in these ceremonies, none of our students can be with us here today. But I'm happy to report they're back in school in person and are enjoying a much more normal school year than the past few. We will be inducting 10 new members into our Hall of Fame today. You see 5 of them here on stage now, and you'll see 5 additional ones in the second part of our ceremony. Among the distinguished guests you will meet in a little while are a number of members of our Hall of Fame. With our inductions today, there will be 78 individuals and 1 family in the EHS Hall of Fame. Our Hall of Fame is unique. We have not only alumni, but former staff and community supporters enshrined in a program that began 11 years ago. I sincerely believe you'll be impressed and awed by the depth and breadth of today's inductees. And for the first time in the history of our induction ceremonies, existing Hall of Fame members will be introducing the inductees. Each shares a special bond with the inductee that they will be introducing today. We are blessed to have with us Miss Selena Morris, Miss Kathy Fuller, and Miss Julia Morris, members of the Mountain Christian Worship Team, who will help us honor our country with our national anthem. Members of our audience and those on stage, would you please rise for our national anthem? Thank you. Worship team, audience, you may be seated. You'll hear from the group later on during our program as well. Obviously, not being able to be on school campus, our celebration will be a little bit different today. We're happy to say, thanks to the catering efforts of Bruno's Land and Sea Restaurant just down the road from where we sit, those who can stay will be able to enjoy a meal together, even if it is socially distanced. And tomorrow afternoon, many of our new Hall of Famers will take part in the 2021 EHS Homecoming Parade. Not only that, but they and many returning Hall of Famers will be introduced on the field in attendance at our homecoming football game. Additionally, several Hall of Famers will be honored guests at the second Bud Coakley Wee Bradley Memorial Golf Tournament put on by the EHS Alumni Association this Saturday at the Geneva Farms Golf Course. The tournament supports scholarships in the name of those 2 EHS legends, as well as the Hall of Fame and other alumni projects that benefit the school. While our new inductees will not have the opportunity to view their plaques in the Hall of Fame at the school just yet, we would like to share an image of that wall with you today. And as you can see, the bottom row is of our new inductees. 11 years ago, we began with 15 charter plaques on the wall, and as you can see, it has grown considerably during the ensuing years. I can tell you from being in the school every day that our students respect the Hall of Fame wall and are inspired as they read about the great things our alumni, former staff, and community supporters have achieved in their lives. The Hall of Fame continues to flourish due to the enthusiastic support of the Edgewood High School leadership and the unwavering support by Edgewood High's outstanding Alumni Association. Now, it is my great honor to introduce a proud member of our Hall of Fame, inducted in 2012, an even more proud member of the Edgewood High School class of 1972, Mrs. Nadine Haas Wellington. Would you please welcome to our MC for today's ceremony, Mrs. Wellington.
Well, good morning, everyone, and this is literally a red letter day. I am so thrilled to be here. You're going to hear that a lot. I think a lot of people want to say that. That's a great synonym, and that's exactly how I feel today. I am thinking of a number. In 1968, that's not the number, I walked through the doors of Edgewood High School as a freshman. Now here's how things have changed a bit. I'll never forget that the banner hanging over the school as I walked in as this little freshman said, "Like a fine wine, the class of '69. Things have changed. I don't think you'd see that hanging on the front of the school as walking in the doors, but that's exactly what I saw as a freshman walking in. 4 years later, I graduated in 1972. That's not the number either. That's 50 years ago. That's the number. This year I'm celebrating with my fellow classmates 50 years since we graduated from Edgewood High School, and we planned a party. We planned a party because we had a lot to celebrate. We have great memories. We had great people that we had in common who we went to school with and who mentored us and taught us and were cheerleaders for us. I remember graduation day. It was in June. It was hot. It was outside. It was on the football field on this big, big stage. There were 360 of us graduating. Joanne Richardson, who passed away recently, was a member of the Board of Education, and she handed me my diploma. I'll never forget when she stepped up to do that. That's about what I remember of graduation day, except that, of course, there were family and friends and tears and laughter and lots of hugs. The same thing I saw coming in here today, and before we needed to be seated because we're having a great time connecting, a lot of people reaching out and celebrating one another, because what your common link is today is that you attended Edgewood High School. That day, I know my family and friends were there, but I also know that Coach Barker was there, Paul Metzger was there, John Lowe was there, Mr. Konjerski was there. I'm sorry, I still have to say Mr. Konjerski. Mr. Marsden was there, Mrs. Choates were there. I don't know if it's because they had to be there. I'm sure that as faculty, they needed to be part of graduation. But thinking back, and that's what we do, folks, when we're nominated and we're inducted, and it's this special, awesome day that we're here, we reflect. You can't help but do that. And what I was stunned by was the fact that these fine folks are here today in this room with me. I have goosebumps 50 years later. Had you told me that day, graduating, that that would happen, that in 50 years, I would be part of a group of colleagues that included my mentors and coaches and teachers, I really don't know what I would have thought at that time. But I can tell you what I think now. And it humbles me, it makes me proud, and I'm so honored to be in the same fraternity of this Hall of Fame as you. Our program officially begins today with a very, very special presentation. With the new president of the Edgewood High School Alumni Association, Mrs. Karen Carey, and our outgoing association president, Mrs. Helen Morrison. Would you please join me here on stage? Yes, that's you. There's only one Helen Morrison. Karen, I'm going to ask you to come over here. Okay. In 2004, when the 50th anniversary of the opening of Edgewood High School was approaching, a group of alumni led by Helen Morrison, Edgewood High School class of 1961, thought it was important that the community celebrate the school's silver anniversary in style. So they staged a program at the old school, complete with an opening of the original 1954 cornerstone, the gift of this beautiful podium, and it was hosted by the school's principal, Joe Schmitz. It was followed by a gala for the first 5 graduating classes at Edgewood High, 1958 through 1962. And out of that event was born the Alumni Association, which has, over the years, supported the school in ways we love, including the presentation of annual scholarships, spring and fall funding festivals, and dozens of other activities, all aimed at honoring the legacy of the school, its students and staff, and providing both funding and volunteer assistance to the school when it was needed. And in 2011, it was the Alumni Association that began this Hall of Fame program that, after today's inductions, will have enshrined 79 community supporters, former staff, or alumni. None of this would have happened without the leadership of Mrs. Helen Morrison, who this year turned over the reins to a new generation led by Mrs. Karen Carey. Karen, would you please read the plaque we're presenting with our heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Morrison today?
Helen E. Morrison, in recognition of her key role in the creation of Edgewood High School Alumni Association in 2004, and her 17 years of outstanding leadership on the occasion of her retirement as president of the association, October 7th, 2021, Edgewood High School Alumni Association.
Okay. I promised I wasn't talking this time. So I'm a little shocked by the presentation, but I'm extremely grateful, and it has been an honor to work so closely with all of you. Thank you.
Each year, the Hall of Fame, since it began in 2011, we've been honored to have with us members of that first graduating class of 1963, years ago, members of the EH class of the class of 1958. Please stand and face the camera in the rear of the auditorium as I call your name, and after they have stood, please join me in welcoming them back. And with us are Mrs. Janice Cullen Morrison and Mrs. Joanne Morkowski Scarborough. Ladies, would you please stand? Thank you. It's such a special treat having you with us today. We're honored to have 20 of our 78 Hall of Famers with us today, and we're going to have the chance to meet them right now. I know you don't want to do it, but when I call your name, you need to turn around and face the TV camera, okay? And you need to remain standing until all the names have been called and you are duly recognized. So please rise and turn and face the camera. After all our current Hall of Famers are present today have been announced, we will honor them collectively. I do want to know at the end if I've missed anyone. I certainly don't want to do that. First, from the charter class of 2011, you've met our outgoing Alumni Association President, Mrs. Helen Racky Morrison. Also meet Ms. Carol Barker, Mr. Charles Bradley, Mr. Dudley Bradley. They've already been signing autographs this morning. Mr. Charles Marzin, Mr. Paul Metzger, Mr. Richard Porterfield. And joining us today are the daughters of the late Mr. Bud Coakley, Mrs. Kim Coakley, Kaczynski, and Mrs. Shelley Coakley Vines. I represent the class of 2012. From the class of 2013, we have Mr. John Bowman and Mrs. Bonnie Morkowski Hayden. From the class of 2014, representing his late father, Mr. Doc McShane, is a man you'll hear a lot more about later this morning, Mr. Tom McShane. And from the class of 2015, Mr. Stephen Moyer. Steve is also representing his late father, Hartford Sheriff Ted Moyer, who was in the class of 2017. Representing the class of 2016 is Mrs. Deborah Lynn Basler. From the class of 2017 to 2017, you've already met Ms. Karen Carey. Also with us is Mr. Bob McCone, Mr. Brian Donnelly, Mr. Keith Rawlings. And from the class of 2018 is Mrs. Marva Ringgold Choate and Mr. Robert Bruce Sr. And lastly, from the class of 2019, Mr. Alfred Calabria, Mr. Patrick Pollard, and Mr. Joseph Schmitz. Is there anyone I may have not said today? Well, wonderful. Let's please give them a rousing applause. We are honored to have members of the school system with us. You met Mrs. Debbie Basler, who is Hartford County Supervisor of Physical Education. Please also welcome Mrs. Patrice Riccardi, member of the Board of Education, along with former member Mr. Bob Frisch. Also from the Schools Hall of Fame Committee, and you've met Josh, but is Assistant Principal Mr. Josh Clemmer and Athletic Director Ms. Sarah Friedman. And please make them welcome. It's my honor to welcome a number of elected officials who have joined us this morning to honor our new Hall of Famers. And as I say your name, and if you're representing someone, if this is your name that I'm saying, please stand so that you can be recognized. And we will begin by Executive Mr. Barry Glassman. Representing Mr. Glassman is Mrs. Cindy Mumry. Also County Council President Mr. Patrick Vincenti and his assistant Samantha Harris. Along with council members Andre Johnson and Chad Schroeds. From the Maryland State Senate is Hartford Senator Bob Cassilly. And from our delegation to Annapolis, our delegates Steve Johnson and Marianne Lasanti, along with Terry McDonald, representing delegates Lauren Arakan and Kathy Salega. Let's express our appreciation for having taken their time out of the busy days to join us. This year, because COVID restrictions prevent students from taking part, I do miss the kids. I mean, that's just part of all of it. I do miss the kids, but this is a great alternative. I'm not taking it for granted. We prevailed upon some of our veteran Hall of Famers. You're the veteran Hall of Famers. We couldn't think of better substitutes to acknowledge and introduce our inductees today. And once again, thanks to the artistry of Mrs. Karen Carey and the technical assistance of Dylan Mock from the Hartford Cable Network, we'll be able to enjoy a series of slides depicting the life stories of our inductees while hearing about their accomplishments. As in the past, we are streamlining the awards process. For the first inductee only, representatives from the Alumni Association, the school, and our elected officials will make their presentations and briefly describe what each of the 10 inductees will be receiving and present them to that first inductee. That's going to be you. After that, each inductee will receive the same awards handed to them in commemorative Harford County bags provided by Cindy Mumby, aide to Harford County Exec Barry Glassman. Thank you, Cindy. Becoming a lifetime member of Edgewood's High School's Hall of Fame is special. There's no entrance exam. There's no qualifying rubric. No formal application process. Membership cannot be sought, but it is most definitely earned. In fact, that's the beauty of it. Inductees are nominated by their peers, former colleagues, coaches, and mentors, and then voted upon by the entire body of the current Hall of Famers. Membership represents excellence. It represents commitment. It represents self-worth, sacrifice, and grit. Our inductees today are winners in many respects, but I'm sure each knows what it's like to lose, to be challenged, and to learn from mistakes. As our inductees are introduced to you today, I believe the biggest common denominators to surface will be their love of community, love of country, love of family, and love of fellow man. I took the liberty of sending some questions entitled The Rest of the Story when our inductees were nominated and planned to be inducted. And I'm going to have a little fun with that throughout the day. I let them know that I needed a little bit of spice for their introduction, so we're going to have some fun with that. So I invite you to settle in and enjoy a red letter day in the lives of our inductees, a source of pride for us all. The first of our Hall of Famers to help you meet an inductee is Mr. Paul Metzger. Mr. Metzger taught and was the work experience coordinator at Edgewood High for 30 years. And he was the coach of the school's championship soccer and basketball teams. He was a member of the charter class of Hall of Fame inductees in 2011. And he knew our very first inductee today well. When I spoke with Mrs. Quinn, because she told me she doesn't do email, and that was quite fine, because we had a great conversation. When I spoke with her and asked her to reflect on her time as an involved parent, she said she was so appreciative of Mr. Metzger's encouragement in getting her to play an active role in the community. She said he was a catalyst. She also mentioned Frank Mazzanotti. Frank's not here today, but she said Frank didn't take any crap. So that's a sentimental version of Frank. When the school was torn down several years ago, one of her children came all the way from North Carolina, and another came from Pennsylvania in order to take the tour. Remember the tour when the building was getting ready to come down? You could write on the walls. And she knew then, to her, that cemented the fact that the school meant so much to her own children, and as much as she dearly loved it. And so here to introduce Mrs. Jeannie Quinn, please welcome Mr. Paul Metzger.
Thanks, Nadine. Good morning. This is a great day, exciting day to be here in Edgewood. Exciting to see the former Hall of Fame members, but even more exciting is to see the new 10 inductees that's going into Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. It's an honor for me to be able to introduce the first new inductee. The program says Jeannie Quinn is 80 years old, but if you get to meet and talk to her, you'll find out she remains young at heart. In the 1970s, the 80s, and the 90s, when we began engaging the beauty business community to help with replacing the old wooden bleachers on the athletic field, a young, beautiful beauty shop owner, Regina Quinn, was one of the first to step up and offer not only her help, but she gave her money, her time. Jeannie was a chartered member of the Edgewood High School Business Advisory Committee. She was there at the annual Edgewood Community Fair each spring, using her winning personality to charm students, staff, and strangers, helping us to raise money for projects like state-of-the-art electronics to be used by teachers. Jeannie Quinn was a pillar in the community, working with the American Cancer Society, Prince of Peace, or help organizing the Prince of Peace Church, and was an honor member of both the Route 40 Business Association and the Harford County Chamber of Commerce, where we served together for many years. All three of Robert and Jeannie Quinn's children were excellent students at Edgewood High School and graduated to become fine citizens. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say, in the 30 years that Jeannie Quinn owned and operated her hairstyling skin care business right here in Edgewood, she was Miss Edgewood. In 2001, she passed the torch of her business to her niece, who carries on the family tradition in the area. It gives me a great personal pleasure to be the first to introduce to you new Edgewood High School's Community Service Hall of Fame member, Mrs. Regina Jeannie Quinn.
This is what happens with age. Thank you, Paul, for that wonderful introduction. You know, you've always been my guardian angel. I also want to thank the community for this wonderful honor of being in the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. I loved Edgewood community and still do. I had a wonderful, fulfilling life here with my husband, Robert, raising 3 children, all graduates of the Edgewood High School, and having a successful business which allowed me to contribute back in various ways for the people in the community. I have been given many opportunities for growth here and have met many wonderful people championing for the success of Edgewood. Many are no longer with us, but I would like to thank the following volunteers that contributed their time for the betterment of Edgewood: Charlie Brockmeyer, Rosemary Johnson, Tony Mioli, Bobby Coombs, Rose Fiore, Bob Santoni, and Ron Sullivan. I'm encouraged to hear about the next generation of Edgewood alumni creating the Edgewood Family Page, giving support and uplifting the community, and in fighting against the negative stigma that this wonderful town unjustly has been given. The group has core family values, which are protect the family, respect the family, trust the family, and build the family. I think this speaks volumes of the people of this town, and I am proud to be counted as one of them. Thank you.
On behalf of Kilo Mack, principal of Edgewood High School, I'd like to officially welcome Jeannie Quinn to the Edgewood High School Alumni Hall of Fame. Presented to Ms. Quinn, as well as each of the inductees, is a plaque from Edgewood High School with a varsity letter recognizing their induction.
Thank you so much. Yeah, can you go over here? You gotta get in the picture. You can go right there. I can't move too much.
From the Alumni Association, we have a certificate that reads, Ms. Regina Jeannie Quinn, Community Service, in recognition of having been named to be a member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame on Thursday, October 7th, 2021, in acknowledgement of her extraordinary service to the Edgewood High School for 3 decades as a member of the Edgewood business community, working tirelessly in many projects that enhance the quality of life for students, staff, and the Edgewood High operation. And then her official plaque from the Hall of Fame.
Oh, thank you. That's what happens when you're 80, your knees go.
Jeannie, you're not supposed to make the elected officials and their representatives cry, but you did that a little bit. On behalf of County Executive Barry Glassman, I'm very pleased to present to you this proclamation recognizing your achievement, as all of the other inductees will get. And I will say this is one of Hartford's best events because it reminds us that where you come from matters. Because it plants a seed in you. And just look at all the beautiful flowers that have come from Edgewood High School.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you and to all the inductees.
Nice
Bless you.
meeting you. I didn't know I was going to get all these prizes. This is wonderful.
Well, Ms. Jeannie, from the Hartford County Council, we're going to give you this proclamation. First of all, I feel like a kid all over again because so many people in here that when I was going to high school at Edgewood High School, Mr. Metzger here and all the other folks here, I just feel like a kid all over again, and I remember you. And you look just as beautiful today as you did back in the day. So, Mr. Metzger said everything that's on this proclamation. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for raising the money for those bleachers because sitting on those bleachers, we definitely got, things stuck in our little behinds back here. So, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, do I have to turn for?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I'm
did wanna-
overwhelmed. This is so wonderful.
I did want to acknowledge Councilman Bueller, who I hadn't, was not able to mention before. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Hi, Jeannie. How are you?
Remembering the good old days when we were together up at the council meetings.
Absolutely,
Oh my
I
gosh.
certainly do.
I grew up with her.
I was going to say the same thing. But Jeannie, I'm Delegate Marianne Lasanti, for those who don't know, and I'm here with Delegate Steve Johnson. And it is my personal pleasure to be here today for a lot of reasons. When I was a young staff person, I worked for Eileen Rehrman, and when she was the county executive, and that's when I first met you. And you can imagine as a young staff person having to meet you for the first time, and I was told very early on that you were the go-to lady in Edgewood, and really you did a lot of work that people that wasn't even in your bio, that generations of kids are better off because you were here and the dedication that you and your family gave. And personally for me, I feel as an adopted member of the Edgewood High School family, because my longtime partner, John Van Gilder, is a 1971 graduate of Edgewood High School, so you're all part of our family. But anyway, for you, from the Maryland General Assembly, Delegate Johnson and I have an official citation on behalf of our Harford County delegation in your honor. So Jeannie, thank you, and God bless you. Thank you for everything you've done, and long, long, happy life. Thank you. And you look as beautiful as ever. Oh, we gotta get a picture. Okay. Which way do I go?
Here, you can hold me. I'm on this.
Okay, well, I'll hold you. How about that? We've got one more. There you go. Thanks.
I feel like I went shopping at a candy store.
I'm Genevieve Foley. I'm here representing Senator Castley and actually all the Harford County senators. We have an official citation for everything that you've done for Edgewood. I actually just recently moved out of Edgewood, unfortunately. I lived here for a couple years and it's been great. And nothing like what previously stated, the stigma behind it. I've always loved it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And we also have one for Miss Karen Carey. It is for the Edgewood High School and Alumni Association, the 10th Edgewood High School Hall of Fame inductions, adding 2 new recipients to the 68 previous alumni, honoring the school's past and celebrating the outstanding individuals who have built that legacy throughout the years.
I need all the help standing up. Thank you all so much. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, presenters. And you can probably guess now why we don't have that happen every single time we announce somebody coming up. So thank you for your willingness to represent yourselves and your awards one time. And all those awards for each individual Hall of Fame inductee are in the special bags, which will be given to them today. Our next presenter is an Edgewood High School legend. First, as an outstanding student musician who graduated in the Edgewood High School class of 1967 and then returned to the school to be an outstanding instrumental music instructor and band leader, Mr. Rob Roosh Sr. In recognition of his outstanding achievements as a student and as a teacher, Mr. Bruce was inducted into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame in 2018. He's here today to help you meet a former colleague of his, Mr. Tom Konjerski. Mr. Konjerski's fondest memories from 30 years ago at Edgewood High School was being able to hand his daughter Deb and son Mike their diplomas when they graduated from high school. And they are here to support him today. Is that so special? That is so special. Mr. Bruce.
Good morning. Tom Kondrowski and I both started at Edgewood High School in 1963. I was a freshman and he was my biology teacher. My senior year, Mr. Kondrowski was my teacher again as he introduced a brand new course, Advanced Biology, that combined botany and zoology. And in 1989, my teacher became my colleague when I joined Tom on the EHS faculty. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there was not a more beloved student-oriented teacher than Tom Kondrowski. He taught science, but his real interest was students. Mr. Kondrowski was one of the first to translate his concern for the environment into practical applications at the school, organizing a variety of environmental programs where he led recycling efforts that involved his students. He developed a solid partnership with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, taking students on canoe trips, nature walks, and running the school's greenhouse while involving kids in the process. Tom Kondrowski's day didn't stop when the final bell rang. He was a fixture on the football sidelines for 17 years, mentoring Ram players and creating lifelong friendships. Like Mrs. Quinn, Tom Kondrowski and his wife Nancy were founding members of the Prince of Peace Church. An avid bird watcher, he involved the students in gaining an appreciation for the beauty of nature and continues his passion, having visited 5 continents and documented 1,837 different bird species in his active retirement. And he knows the name of every one. The program says he was the glue that held the Edgewood faculty together in his 30 years here, and that's no exaggeration. His colleagues could find no better friend, and his students no better role model than Tom Kondrowski. Now I have the great pleasure to once again claim him as my teacher and colleague. Please help me congratulate Mr. J. Thomas Kondrowski, former staff member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame.
Let's see if I can do this without cheaters. I am very honored, excuse me, let me take this off temporarily. I am very honored to be named a new member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. Edgewood High School and the Edgewood community was my work and my home for more than 40 years, and it remains very special to me. Thank you to the committee and everyone who helped make this a very memorable occasion. Special thanks to Don Morrison for his organization, updating, and prompt answers to all my questions. Thanks to David Wehage for his nomination and his impromptu teaching of my class the time a substitute did not show up. Also, thanks to Rob Bruce for his introduction, and he already told you that he was a 9th grader in my first biology class of 43 students, the first year I taught. Thanks and love to my family, the most important part of my life. To my wife, Nancy, our family, Debbie and Ken, Mike and Maria, and our grandsons, John and Joe, for being supportive of all I do, always listening, ready to listen to my stories again, and encouraging my many birding adventures. I have enjoyed an amazing life, and the Hall of Fame honor is like the icing on a Smith Island cake. Thank you all again.
On behalf of Kilo Mack, principal of Edgewood High School, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Tom Konjerski to the Edgewood High School Alumni Hall of Fame.
Our next presenter is another outstanding alumni who returned to the school to be an equally outstanding teacher and coach. So respected was she that in 2011, she was part of the charter class of the inductees into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. She's here today to help you meet a colleague of hers, Mr. John Lowe. She's also an aunt to my son, Spencer. That's how close we still are after 50 years. In answer to the question, what are 3 adjectives which would best describe you in high school? Mr. Lowe said, fair, sincere, and honest. And then he added that a college recruiter told him a student of his, when she was interviewing the student, referred to Mr. Lowe as adorable. In here to introduce adorable Mr. Lowe is Carol Barker.
Thanks, Nadine. Adorable. Wow. Mary Ann, I bet you didn't even know that, did you? What a privilege to be here today, this wonderful, wonderful ceremony. And I'm very privileged to help you understand why this gentleman behind me, Mr. John Lowe, richly deserves to be in the Edgewood High Hall of Fame. Being on staff with him for almost 20 years, I got to know John very well, and I watched the romance develop between Mary Ann Shriver and John. To say that he was the backbone of the Edgewood teaching staff during his 30 years as science teacher, track coach, club sponsor is more than accurate. He and Tom, I think, if you got out of Edgewood High School without having one of them for biology, you must have snuck out the back door, because they both taught them all, I think. During his tenure at Edgewood, it was a very, very turbulent time, as most of us know. Integration had just been achieved, and there was real tension among many of the black and white students. John Lowe, being a young teacher, started at the school just the year before some trouble really started to show its ugly head in Harford County. From the very beginning, I saw the calming influence that John had on both students and members of his track team, black and white, as they came to understand truly that he cared about them. He taught standard courses and introduced the first advanced placement classes in science while he was at Edgewood. And he was one of the first to support and help colleagues integrate computers and multimedia technology into their instruction. As longtime science department chair, he mentored new teachers and found ways to involve them and himself in all aspects of the school program. Not satisfied merely to teach and coach, he organized and was the first sponsor of the Leo Club at Edgewood High. The Leo Club, associated, as some of you may know, is associated with the Edgewood Lions and involves students in community give-back kinds of service projects, teaching them the importance of doing just that, giving back to their community. Like Mrs. Quinn and Mr. Konjerski, John and his wife Mary Ann, whom he met, as I said, while they were both young teachers at Edgewood High, were early founders of the Prince of Peace Church right here in the Edgewood community, just down Willoughby Beach Road from the school. When John left Edgewood High in 1996, he was hired by the county school system to support technology countywide. Still passionate about his teaching and coaching, he then taught full-time at John Carroll School for a decade, where he also coached track. He continued for another 9 years part-time at the school, and finally, Marianne and I thought he would never give up the chalk, but he did. Finally, after 53 years as an educator, he retired last year. John Lowe's life, his work, and his passion serve as an example to us all of how it should be done. Without doubt, he is a worthy member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame, and I was delighted to be one of his nominator persons. Please help me congratulate and welcome into our fraternity former staff member and current new Hall of Famer, Mr. John Lowe.
Good morning, boys and girls. Wait a minute. That was habit, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, habit. In order to make my remarks brief, I will keep in mind a proverb written on a subway wall in Berkeley, California. A smart man knows what to say. A wise man knows whether or not to say it. Arthur Ashe probably said this best. Success is a journey, not a destination. This ceremony is not only a defining moment in my journey, but is a true measure of my destiny that I will cherish forever. I would like to take the next few moments to thank some individuals and groups who have had a major impact on my more than half-century adventure. Carol, for nominating and introducing me. You have been a friend and associate since the mid-'60s. You and Marianne were there to lend a guiding hand when I started my mission in life. The members of the Edgewood Alumni Association who chose me to become part of this extraordinary family, the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. Many of you were there in my classroom, willing or not, to share my journey. My family, Marianne, Steve, Brandon, and Andrew, for enduring without too much complaining all those long days and many evenings I spent with my students at various venues on and off campus. Thank you for sharing me with my vocation. You are the vessel that made my journey possible. All the teachers, administrators, and school staff that supported me along the way. Your friendship, leadership, and guidance guarantee that my journey stayed true. And to the thousands of students and athletes that passed through my varied classrooms during my 53 years of teaching and coaching, you discovered that biology is often overflowing with marvelous, adventurous chaos, endured long bus trips to all corners of the state to face formidable opponents, set sails on a skipjack, and were entertained at the zoo. Without you, my journey had no purpose. Finally, I would like to leave all of you with the thoughts and words of Dorothy Law Nolte, which have guided me in all my endeavors, traditional and otherwise. If a child lives with fairness, she learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns to have faith. If a child lives with approval, she learns to like herself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to love the world. Once again, I thank you all for this memorable honor and for being an essential part of my continuing journey towards success. Thank you.
On behalf of Kilo Mack, principal of Edgewood High School, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. John Lowe to the Edgewood High School Alumni Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, another legend of Edgewood High School, who transferred to the school from Philadelphia to revolutionize the way basketball was played in the county. He then went on to compile a truly remarkable career as a coach, teacher, and administrator in the Harford County Schools. He was inducted into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame in 2017. He's here to introduce another great student athlete at Edgewood who went on to achieve great things in business, Mr. Rick Wolf. Interesting that Rick Wolf aspired to own his own business back in the day and believed when he was 18 years old, graduating from Edgewood High School, that the biggest life lesson he was taking away from the school was, be confident. Introducing Mr. Wolf, please welcome Mr. Bob McCone.
First of all, I would like to thank Don Morrison for calling me and finally asking me to do something instead of telling me. I appreciate that. He called and said, he said, Bob, he said, I really would like you to introduce Rick Wolf. And I was thrilled, partly because I helped nominate Rick, but first time I saw Rick Wolf was in the Aegis newspaper after the Edgewood High School basketball team in 1963 had finally won a Harford County championship. And there's a picture in the Aegis, and there's Rick Wolf celebrating, and Tom McShane in the picture also celebrating. And I said, who is this kid? And he said, well, that's Rick Wolf, man. He was an athlete here. He was a great student and everything else. And a mutual friend of ours, Steve Melfa, talked me into and told me everything I needed to know about Rick. And then when I met Rick, I found out he's every bit more than what I had expected. So I am thrilled to be up here and introduce Rick. At a time when most teenagers were spending their non-school hours relaxing with friends and doing what teens do, Rick Wolf was hitchhiking to work at a variety of jobs as he lived on his own and was sleeping in a friend's basement. All this was while starring in 3 sports, getting honors grades, and serving as a class officer at Edgewood High School. It's no wonder, given that the early display of personal drive, that Rick built a company that now employs more than 1,000 people with an annual revenue of over $100 million. The journey from humble beginning to executive leadership is the American dream. And Rick Wolf continues not only to live it, but to give back as a committed philanthropist. The eldest of 13 children, Mr. Wolf enlisted in the Air Force after high school, serving in rescue operations in remote and hostile surroundings. After his discharge, a chance meeting with a small and struggling donut business owner, the man talked Rick into becoming a manager of his donut business, and Rick eventually managed to own the business, which he built into a company with multiple facilities across the country. Maintaining a local residence, Rick Wolf and his wife Barbara have raised their family while taking part in the community. He has supported an organization that cares for abused women and children and has served as a lay leader in his church. Rick Wolf has combined business success with a humble spirit that makes him an ideal candidate to be a part of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. I am proud to call him a friend, respect him very much, and now a fellow member of our school's Hall of Fame. Please help me congratulate Mr. Rick Wolf.
I wonder who he's talking about sometimes. High school, you learn a lot of things about yourself. And so when he says I was confident then, at 18 years old, I'm not so confident right this minute. Good. High school is where I learned the value and the essence of friendship. I made lifelong friends in high school. Lifelong friends. That's a long time ago. I'm 76 years old. Had these friends for over 60 years. 2 of them are here today and are directly responsible for my nomination. Mr. Sam Day and Mr. Buddy Powers. Thank you, gentlemen, for your valid friendship. Special thanks to Coach Marsden. You've seen him earlier today. I think you'll find on a lot of resumes, people talk about Coach Marsden. For good reason. He challenged me and many other of my teammates through baseball and basketball to be better teammates, better students, and better men. Thank you, Coach. A special recognition to my wife, Barbara. 54 years. Most of the time I wasn't home trying to build a company. But her love and support guided me and supported me in all my endeavors. Being a member of the Hall of Fame, like all the other members, it's not a goal that you have because it didn't exist then. It's only 10 years old. So you don't go through all that period of time and say, boy, I want to be a member of the Hall of Fame. It just happens. To say I was surprised about that is an understatement of monstrous proportions. I recognize that along with membership comes the duty to become an ambassador for the school and for the community. I accept and embrace that responsibility. I will do my best to uphold the standards of the Hall. Thank you. God bless America. What a country.
On behalf of Kilo Mack, principal of Edgewood High School, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Rick Wolf to the EHS Alumni Hall of Fame.
We're saying prayers today for our friend Howard McComas III, who is, as we speak, undergoing surgery for a back condition. Howard III was a standout student at Edgewood High who went on to be a leader in the community as a business owner and philanthropist. He was part of that outstanding group of charter inductees into the Hall of Fame in 2011. While Howard III couldn't be with us, we're delighted that his son, Howard McComas IV, an Edgewood High graduate who is also a business and community leader, is here subbing for his dad to help you meet our 4th inductee today, Mr. Tom McShane. Tom always wanted to be a teacher. He graduated from Edgewood believing in hard work and a never-give-up outlook. My best recollection of Tom was when we served as principals together. Of course, he was much older than I. He also had a lot of experience, and he was a wonderful mentor and friend and made me laugh and helped me not to take myself so seriously. He does very much have a penchant for telling jokes. He's very quick-witted, but he's also very kind and willing to share his knowledge and his experience and expertise. Tom, you said your best overall memory of your high school days was Charlie Moyer's touchdown. And we'd really love to hear about that, because I want to know what that was that stood out at that moment in time to make it the best memory that you have. I'm sure it's a good story. So without any more ado, would Mr. McComas please come to introduce Mr. McShane?
Good morning, good morning. So obviously with all the numbers after the McComases, the joke is we're not smart enough to come up with new names on our own, so we just keep putting numbers at the end. Dad is doing fine. He had back surgery, but found a way to walk from his house up to the funeral home yesterday. It's the first place he's going to walk to, of course. So he is doing fine. Don called me, and I think he's trying to save a little money because he said Howard was going to do the presentation. He said, but so we don't have to change the program, would you mind doing it? So, Don, absolutely. So, special group up here. I'm just honors royalty up here. I have to say one thing about Mr. Lowe here taught me, taught a lot of us in the room here when we were at Edgewood, but 2 years ago he taught my son at John Carroll. So that's 2 generations. Yep. So happy retirement. Finally. Let's talk about Tom. It's an honor to be here to present Tom McShane to you. Tom McShane was a leader beginning in high school, class officer, member of the school newspaper staff, boys state representative, football player, and honor student. Young Tom appeared destined to be a leader as an adult, but the heights he reached as a lifelong educator, a teacher, assistant principal, and eventually superintendent of schools in Pennsylvania were beyond those high expectations created in school. Among his assignments as a principal in Harford County was leadership of Edgewood High feeder school, William Pecca, Old Post, my alma mater also. Yes. In Harford, he was awarded the Governor's Citation for Service, and in Pennsylvania, he was named Superintendent of the Year while serving 4 years as Superintendent of Schools in the Southeastern Pennsylvania School District. Mr. McShane continued his service to students as an adjunct professor at York College, training aspiring teachers, giving back. He supervised student teachers at 2 area colleges and taught adult basic education. Beyond his work as a teacher and a school administrator, Tom co-founded the Communities to Care charitable effort and was a contributor in many other service groups. Tom will join his dad, the late William Doc McShane, as a member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. I knew both of them well, as dad knowing them both well, but I knew Tom well, very well, and know how much each richly deserved this great honor. Help me please honor one of the newest Hall of Fame members, Mr. Thomas C. McShane.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate your kind words and making me sound a lot better than I really am. To tell you the truth, Howard was given a choice, his father, Howard, was given the choice of introducing me or getting surgery. Howard chose the surgery. So, but I appreciate you coming in and taking his place. I too want to thank family because they're the reason I'm really here. I have to thank my wife of 55 years for her constant, lifelong support and encouragement. My 3 sons, Darren, Ryan, and Stephen. I want to thank them for making sure I never take myself too seriously. And I want to thank my daughter-in-laws who are absolutely outstanding. That would be Bobby and Sarah. And I just, as I've always told them before, those boys are yours, and I don't want them back. So, and I do want to thank Don Morrison as well. Don, putting all this together, it takes many, many hands to do it. And by golly, he picked the right hands, including himself, in putting all this together. It's just a wonderful opportunity. And I greatly appreciate it from you, Don, and your crew. And I want to thank Bob Williams, who nominated me. Bob's not here this year, but he will be, I think, next year. I want to just mention 3 competent things, components to a successful school. I've traveled around a lot of schools over the years, and I've noticed a commonality, and ironically, it's the same thing that we have here in the Hall of Fame. The first one is community service. A school cannot exist without the support of a community service. It was mentioned here in 1954 of the laying of the cornerstone for the new Edgewood High School. I was there. I was in 8th grade. My parents took me out of school and brought me over here for the ceremony. And I remember that I learned how to stand on my tiptoes. Now, I've never had to do it since, but then I had to do it just to see over the crowd, that there were so many people there that it was almost impossible to see. And it was from that point on that you saw a tremendous amount of community service. And Edgewood High School united many of the small communities that were in the area. Just to mention a few, we had the Edgewood Arsenal, and of course Edgewood. We had Willoughby Beach, we had Joppa, we had Abington, we had Magnolia, Long Bar Harbor, parts of Belcamp, parts of Emerton, and the Route 40 area, and also the Route 7 area. It united all those communities with one common goal: to make Edgewood High School the best it could possibly be. The second area would be the faculty and staff of our high school. I remember them for their superior knowledge, knowing their jobs, understanding and caring for students. Good examples of that, if you permit me to list just a few, and there's many more than just these few, but Bud Coakley, Ron Webb, Helen Eisenberg, and of course, Mr. Marzin. And 3 former students, and really a tribute to the high school to have these students, that they were here, and then they wanted to come back here to instruct our students. It's just really a remarkable thing for our high school. Rob Bruce was mentioned, Rose Ellen Goodrich Richardson, and who can forget Carol Barker. Thank you very much for sharing your talents with us. The third and most important competent area would be the students. We had students from all over the world, thanks to the Edgewood Arsenal and several other large companies in our area, and it taught us to have a respect for students, no matter what their color and no matter what their culture. We were noted for being fair and honest and hardworking, and we valued education. So in conclusion, I want to say to you that I am proud to say that I'm an Edgewood High School graduate, and I'm honored to be a part of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. Thank you.
It is my pleasure, on behalf of Kilo Mack, Principal of Edgewood High School, to welcome Mr. Tom McShane to the HS Alumni Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much.
I think you will all agree that our first 5 inductees added to the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame have made us all richer for being part of this day. We have 5 more to induct into our 2 process here today. And while our first 5 inductees and all the rest of us leave the stage, Our next, we will be inspired by the voices and music of Selena Morris, Kathy Fuller, and Julia Morris. So let's do that now. Let's make that transition. Please once again acknowledge that beautiful music offered by the Mountain Worship Team. And they're joined each Sunday morning by their colleagues here at Mountain Christian, and I'm sure there's much information if you're interested in attending Mountain Christian for worship. Someone mentioned that Mr. Marsden must be mentioned in a lot of comments and things that people make about memories of Edgewood High School, and they're correct. Between Mr. Marsden and Bud Coakley and Mr. Metzger, there are quite a few alumni, as well as former staff, who these gentlemen mean a great deal to. Mr. Marsden was a captivating teacher and much beloved coach at Edgewood High before becoming one of the pioneers in the county for school guidance. And like others you have met, he was justly honored in that charter class of 2011 Edgewood High School Hall of Fame inductees. Mr. Marsden is here to help you meet one of his favorite students, who is another pioneer in business and in service, Miss Joan Hess Ryder. Joan said, "I can do anything I want if I try." This was the biggest life lesson she took away from Edgewood High School. Adjectives to describe her: reserved, quiet and shy. That was when she was 18. It's such a pleasure to meet you today, Joan. Her crowning achievement was getting inducted into the National Honor Society. Mr. Morrison, would you please make this introduction?
Hello, Joan. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you that I was a teacher at one time. I had you in my class, and it was a pleasure at that time. And I want to remind you again that during your days working at Edgewood Middle School, I frequently stopped by, not to see Joe Brown, but basically to see you. So it is a great honor for me to do this. I know and respected Joan Hess. She was an outstanding student at Edgewood High School, and I'm pleased to tell you that through all the ensuing years that she has been here, she became one of the area's most successful business leaders. She's built a life to be admired. An honor student who spent time working in the principal's office as a student, Joan so impressed Joe Brown, who opened the new Edgewood Middle School in 1965 as its first principal, that he hired her right out of high school to be his lead secretary. While doing her job with skill and passion, her driving ambition led her to enroll at Hartford Community College and eventually earn her real estate license. Then, after years of working for others, she opened her own real estate company, Joan Ryder and Associates Real Estate, Inc., and built it into one of the top firms of its kind in the region. Recognized as both Hartford and Maryland Realtor of the Year, she continues to lead her company and contributing to the community. One of the founders and leaders of the Hartford Farm Fair, she was also president of Hartford Community College Foundation. Ms. Ryder has supported a number of worthwhile causes, including the Boys Club and the Girls Club, and the Humane Society, where she is now a director. She is an example not only for women, but for all with a dream to make their lives. That's why I'm so pleased to be the first to announce that Joan Hess Ryder is now a member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. Joan?
I just want to know where that skinny girl went. Thank you, Chuck. I'd like to thank the committee for nominating me and then choosing me to be part of this prestigious group. It truly is an honor. The basis for everything I have accomplished came from the teachers I had when I was a student at Edgewood High School, and then from the relationships I had when I worked for the Board of Education at Edgewood Middle School. I was always challenged to do my best, and that carried over to my career in real estate. I've always tried to lift the community of Edgewood up in my daily dealings with buyers and sellers. Edgewood has a lot to offer, and it was easy when I told them I lived in Edgewood and I graduated from Edgewood High School. Teachers really do make impressions in our lives, and sometimes we don't realize it till much later in life. Their dedication, their hard work, and their patience are just a few of the traits they have. I'll be forever grateful for the push I got when I didn't want to do something,
and the persistence of the teachers who knew I could. Thank you again.
We gotta make it official.
Sorry.
On behalf of Kilo Mack, principal of Edgewood High School, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Joan Hessrider as a member of the EHS Alumni Hall of Fame.
Our next presenter traveled all the way across the country from the great American Northwest to be with us today and to tell you about his lifelong friend and classmate, Mr. Bob Rivera. Al Cabrera was an outstanding student athlete at Edgewood High and went on to become an executive with multinational companies while giving back to his community, earning admission to the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame in 2019. He has a great story to tell you about Bob Rivera. Bobby was the first sophomore to ever be asked to play varsity. In what sport? Basketball. I needed to know that. Perhaps that's when he acquired such great respect for his coaches and his aspiration to become a high school coach began. Respect for his fellow man was the biggest life lesson he took away from Edgewood High School. Please let's welcome Mr. Al Cabrera to the stage to introduce our Hall of Fame member, Mr. Bob Rivera.
I'm pretty confident that Bob Rivera was not selected to the Hall of Fame because his name has the most alliteration of any name. His real name is Roberto Rolando Rivera. Pardon my poor Spanish accent. We were classmates and teammates at Edgewood from 8th grade through 12th. I consider it an honor to introduce my friend as a member of our high school Hall of Fame. He has been a role model for me in several of his life experiences, including his warm demeanor, his committed sportsmanship, dedication to family, military service, and law enforcement at local and federal levels. In addition to being a star athlete in 4 sports at Edgewood, Bob's life has been a testament to his commitment to his country, faith, family, and friends. His service in the Air Force, his service to his community as a police officer, his contribution as a criminal justice instructor, and his dedication as a father and youth coach all make him a person to be admired. Entering the Air Force as an enlisted man, Bob Rivera was accepted to and successfully completed officers training school, paving the way for several high-profile positions both in the U.S. and abroad. As chief law enforcement officer at Air Force bases in Texas, Spain, and Germany, he and the units he commanded had duties that involved highly sensitive security for human and material assets. Bob's impressive list of actions serving his fellow citizens included security at an airport during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and his support of Hurricane Katrina victims in New Orleans, where he was awarded a medal by the Homeland Security Secretary. I believe that Bob, like so many other EHS alumni, was provided the foundation for such an impressive career of public service by the teachers and staff of our alma mater. I'm a better person because Bob has been in my life. Please join me in welcoming Roberto Rolando Rivera as a member of the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame.
Okay, this is going to be like me, short and sweet. Okay, and by the way, someone told me one time that when you give a speech, look out at the audience and picture them all naked. So when this is done, then you can put your clothes back on. Anyway, good morning. I'd like to say thank you to Principal Mack and his staff for continuing an awesome tradition at Edgewood. I'd like to thank Donnie Morrison and his staff for all the hard work putting all of this together. And finally, I want to thank Al Calabria and Bob McCone for nominating me to this prestigious honor. They say that behind every successful man is a strong, supportive woman. Very true. I have been fortunate to have had two very strong and supportive women supporting me throughout my life. First, Mary Lou. She's the mother of my three children, Bobby, John, and Michelle. Unfortunately, she succumbed to cancer in 1995. My second wife and supporter, Linda, who is with us today, has supported me for over 25 years. She has two sons, Christopher and Andrew. Together we have 8 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. My success in life is due to the foundation formed here at Edgewood by my teachers, like Mr. Brown, who taught me the importance of writing, punctuation, spelling, grammar, and so forth. Coach Coakley, who I really wish would have been here today, could have been here today to see me receiving this honor, and Coach Marzin. Boy, they say his name a lot, don't they? They taught me teamwork, they taught me respect for my teammates and others, and integrity. I will be forever grateful. Thanks to all, this is a moment in my life that I will never, ever forget. Thank you.
On behalf of Principal Mack and Edgewood High School, it's my pleasure to welcome Roberto Rivera to the EHS Alumni Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hope I don't break the camera.
You've had the opportunity to meet our new president of the Edgewood Alumni Association, Ms. Karen Carey, earlier in the program. A 1978 graduate of Edgewood High School, Karen has distinguished herself as a nurse and a multi-talented performer in the arts. The 2017 inductee into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame asked to be able to introduce a woman who has been at the very top of the national and international entertainment field for her entire lifetime. Our next inductee's mom worked in the school cafeteria. Patty fondly remembers sneaking into the cafeteria during band class with a friend to eat spice cake. I remember that spice cake. It was good. So was the spaghetti, but it was good. Patty is indebted to every single friend and teacher for their skill, support, and generosity with their time. She describes herself as short and shy and a dancer. Here to introduce Miss Patty DeBeck is Karen Carey.
Well, Patty DeBeck started her dancing dream at Eloise Tinker Dance Studio. Later at Edgewood High, Patty was an honor student and accomplished member of the marching band, performed in dance concerts, became Miss Dance of America, and graduated in 1966. She then went to New York City and danced in nightclubs under her new stage name, Patti DeBeck. For 30 years, she worked on Broadway as a dancer or choreographer. A list of stars whom she has performed would fill most of the time that I have. To name a few, Elton John, Ben Vereen, Liza Minnelli, and Bernadette Peters. Having received college degrees in performing arts and mathematics, Patti taught as an assistant professor and adjunct faculty member at major universities and was even the subject of an award-winning documentary film. She has traveled across the globe where she staged a flash mob in the French Quarter, choreographed Mata Hari in Seoul, Korea, and taught classes in New Zealand with her husband, David. Patti continues her work today at the Virginia Commonwealth University Medical Campus, training young doctors to improve communication skills. Teach them well. I deal with a lot of them. She is currently a director, choreographer at a performing arts center in Virginia, where she is directing 2 musical productions this coming year. No matter the heights she has achieved in realizing her dreams, the foundation she gained at EHS has remained a driving force in her life with her family. I'm so proud to be joined with Edgewood High School Hall of Fame by this talented and dedicated professional, so please join me in congratulating Miss Patti DeBeck.
Thank you. Oh gosh, I'm so nervous. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Don Morrison, for doing everything. Thank you, Al Calabria, for nominating me. Thank the committee. Thank you all. It is, wow, it is just an honor to be here, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with such amazing past and present inductees. I'm just honored. I'd also like to thank a 1966 Edgewood High School graduate, Philip Feinsilver. He was invited to accept a Hall of Fame nomination by Al Calabria, our Hall of Famer here today, but Philip was unable to do so at the time, and so he suggested me. So I shared this award with Philip Feinsilver, my friend. In 1966, I started 7th grade at Edgewood Senior High School wearing my Madras blouse, my khaki pencil skirt, and my new purse from Farmer's Market. It was the first time ever that I moved down the halls to change classes. I mean, instead of staying in the same room with the same teacher, all day, looking back, I realized my education had me literally moving forward every day when I was a student at EHS. Thank you, EHS. And that prepared me to keep moving forward after I graduated in New York. One of my dance teachers, Luigi's, always said, "Patti, just keep moving." My wonderful mentor, Johnny Argo, always said, "Patti, just keep dancing. I know you can do it." Later, when I was a teacher, someone asked me what was my greatest joy. Oh, wow. I think it's helping people feel good about themselves and giving my time to others, because I never used to do that. In my opinion, I think these are the 2 best things that you can do for others, and that's what my teachers did for me every time I moved through that hallway into their class. That is what I learned at Edgewood Senior High School from those wonderful teachers, and that is what I pass on to you. Regardless of the challenges that we all face, and we certainly have more challenges today than ever before, remember to keep moving. And I want to thank my wonderful husband, the love of my life. I learn so much from you every day. I'd like to close with a quote by Conrad Hall, a cinematographer. "You are always a student, never a master. You have to keep moving forward." Thank you. This is an honor.
On behalf of Principal Kilo Mack, it's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Patti DeBeck to the EHS Alumni Hall of Fame.
For basketball fans, our next presenter needs no introduction. We're so proud to have Mr. Dudley Bradley with us today. Mr. Bradley led the Rams to their first state basketball title in 1975 and went on to star in college and in the pros. Dudley, along with his brother Charles, who is also with us today, was inducted in that charter group of Hall of Famers in 2011. But he's here today to talk about one of his teammates, Mr. Dennis Compton, who, after almost half a century later, he admires not only for his athletic and business accomplishments, but for the kind of man he is. Dennis's best overall memory is playing basketball with Dudley Bradley. Upon graduating from Edgewood High School, he wanted to be successful in life. The biggest life lesson, that we are all diverse, and to embrace that diversity and treat people with respect. And just a little PS, Dudley, his second best memory is singing Barbara Ann on the soccer bus with my brother Jeff. Please welcome Mr. Bradley.
Hello, how's everybody? This is much easier than what these guys are going through. When I was inducted, I was scared as can be. You know, when we're young, our parents is always directing us and they're teaching us. And so therefore, come in at 9 to be in bed at 10, they prepared us. That's what we do now. As you get older, that's what you do. You come in at 9, because we're in bed at 10. We're not out partying. And as a sophomore, I learned from Dennis, who was a senior, who really didn't get all the credit that he deserved. Him and Sammy Red inherited a team that was really, really not good, because I knew I didn't want to be on it. And then as we grew, Dennis and Sam taught me so many things, and I've learned from them, and we never ever talk about a loss. And we went from a team that no one really cared about to a team that everybody loved, because we went to the semifinals of the state championship. And I grew with him, and I learned. And as I started talking about him, I realized I'm still following him. When Dennis was in school, he played 3 sports: soccer, basketball, and baseball. When he went to visit Washington, where he actually went to college, I learned from him, because I had to listen to what he was saying and the questions that he was asking, so that I would follow in his footsteps. At the school, he was the MVP for the baseball team, and he also was the captain of the basketball team. So it's no surprise that he was going to do great in the community, because he was a coach and also a member of his church. You know, a great individual, probably one of the best individuals I've ever met. And when you talk about Dennis, I didn't realize he married a great young lady who is also from Edgewood High School, Miss Rose Compton. Like me, he has 3 children. I have 3 children. We have 2 grandchildren. He has 2 grandchildren. 2 females, 10 and 7. So you see, I'm still following. You know, I followed a great guy. And when Dennis asked me to do this, I said, man, why me? So many great people. But he knew I was going to be short. And he's going to talk a long time. And they didn't give him much time to talk. So I would like to welcome a great guy, a great individual, Dennis Compton.
Trust me, that was more than generous. First and foremost, I would like to thank my Savior, Lord Jesus Christ. And I also would like to thank my families here today. My wife Rose of 40 years, an EHS grad, my daughter Jessica, my son Andrew, my daughter Megan, and as Pop had promised, my granddaughter Adelie and my granddaughter Mahala. And since I'd like to first off thank Don Morrison, who was very instrumental in me standing here today. And thankfully, he said keep it short, and I certainly intend to do that. I had Edgewood had a great impact on my life in many ways. One was teachers and coaches. Had wonderful teachers. Many are here today. Coaches are here today. Two, I'd like to just point out, one, unfortunately not with us, is Coach Wiest. Coach Wiest was my freshman basketball coach, my freshman football coach, and he had a great impact on me, his work ethic as a Christian brother and as a man. But this next man, he had a much greater impact on me in high school and since then. And today, he helped guide me as a coach, a mentor, a teacher, and a friend. He helped guide me as a student, a player, and a man, and that is Coach Metzger. I want to thank you, Coach. Can never repay what you've done for me. Thank you. And as you've seen, Mr. Bradley can talk a lot of, some would say BS, but I could never talk about my experience at Edgewood without discussing Dudley Bradley. I played at the beginning of what I would call the Bradley era. Him, Charles, I played with arguably the best player to ever come out of Harford County, and it was a thrill. And as you can probably see, I hope he is a class act on and off the court. I haven't seen Dudley in probably 40 years to today, and it's like I just saw him yesterday. He's the same man through and through. Amazing. Thank you. And then lastly, the biggest thing Edgewood had on me is when I was a sophomore, I met this really small kid, had glasses, looked like he was 12, wanted to be quarterback, and that was Steve Wilkinson, who's here today. And we became fast friends, and we became brothers, and we've been together as best friends for almost going on 50 years. And he comes from an amazing family that became my second family. Irv and Debbie Wilkinson, Jeff the brother, they took me in. I would have never had any of that with Edgewood, and I'm thankful for that. So I'd like to leave you with this. Back in the day, we were able to, I think, say some prayers. Dave Lewis, who's a fellow Hall of Fame inductee, he was the captain of the soccer team. He would always bring us together at the end of practice and say a prayer. And he would always end it the same way. And everything you think and everything you do and everything you are, give the glory to God. I give this glory to God. Thank you.
On behalf of Principal Kilo Mack, it is my pleasure to welcome Dennis Compton to the EHS Alumni Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Big hand. You got it. Congratulations. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our final presenter for the day, Steve Moyer, is a man who has been through the Hall of Fame induction process twice. The first time was in 2015, when this lifelong law enforcement leader was inducted into the Hall of Fame. The second came 2 years later, when he represented his father, the late Sheriff Ted Moyer, when the former sheriff was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, he has the opportunity to tell you about a schoolmate and close friend of the family who joins the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame fraternity today, Mr. Paul Sillo. Paul was the first in his family to graduate from college. This was his life's ambition as he graduated from Edgewood High School, describing himself as fun, athletic, and sometimes smart. He believed then and now that you should never give up on your dreams. Steve Moyer.
Well, first of all, I noticed on the program I'm last, and there's nothing else after this, and Donnie wants me to stretch it to 11. So a couple weeks ago, Donnie called me and said, "Where are you living now? I know you've had 3 careers, but we want to induct Paul Sillo into the Hall of Fame, and we want you to do the introduction." And I said, "Of course." So I flew up here from Sarasota yesterday, And on the way up, I was thinking, oh my, look at the resumes, the talent, the friends, and everybody that knows everybody in this room. It's pretty amazing. What's also amazing, Donnie, is when I walk through that door, I don't think it's by chance that there's a basketball hoop over Paul Metzger's head, Dudley Bradley's head, Dennis Compton's head, Tub Bradley's head, Steve Wilkinson's head. Because I was just a little freshman then, and these guys are still giants now. Just to walk in and watch them standing under that hoop, I was like, there's a new memory right there. So, but thank you. I'm honored to be here today. Paul Stiller was a star at Edgewood High School, both in the classroom and on the athletic fields. I remember Paul as a young man. My father, Ted, had us on the same 8, 9, and 10 baseball team and a couple football teams. Paul demonstrated his character status as an Eagle Scout. He was a standout running back on the football team and was an honor student who went out about setting records and typically did it always quite well. He took his football skills to Harford Community College, where the Owls were in the midst of contending for a national championship. From there, Paul moved on to Towson State University, because he heard I went there, and set a record for touchdowns and earning a position on the All-Italian, All-American team. Interesting, since he was born in France, and French was his first language. It comes as no surprise that Paul Stiller became a success in business, and it's even less surprising that he continues his service to others as commander of the Sons of the American Legion. He spent more than a dozen years as a Cub Master, Scoutmaster, mentoring young boys and helping about 35 of them become Eagle Scouts. All 4 of Paul's children became honor students, and 2 of them following their dad as Eagle Scouts. Paul Stiller's life has been one of great accomplishments and even greater service to his fellow man. Just the qualities that I'm sure you all agree will make him an ideal member for the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame. So please help me congratulate Paul Stiller, the last of your 2021 inductees into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you I'm honored and humbled to be selected by my peers to join this elite group, and I'm very, very impressed with some of the resumes. And these are not even their true resumes. So congratulations to all the inductees. I'd like to thank Don and his wife, especially for putting me last, keeping the group from lunch. So I'm standing between you. So I'll try to be as quick as I can, but I'd like to thank Jim Claypool for nominating me. I'd also like to recognize my family, starting with my youngest, Hannah. Stand up, just briefly. Go ahead, Hannah. My next, Colin. My next, Paul and his wife, Katie. And the oldest is Morgan and her husband, Brian. Many times I've been away from home. Obviously, you never saw me play football, so you're a little bit too young, but you know some of the other things I was involved in, and so you guys sacrificed, except for, unfortunately, the 2 boys where I took them backpacking in the Rocky Mountains and canoeing in Maine. Steve's right, I was born in France, spoke French, and this is the woman that I'm going to introduce next to you, who taught me a little bit of that French. Now, to be honest with you, I also spoke English because I was a military brat, and we spoke English at home, but Mom tried to encourage French. So she used to always say to me, Paulie, caca dans la culotte. Think about that. Culotte is your pants. So what can Paulie do as a little 3 or 4-year-old? Poop his pants. Paulie wasn't having anything to do with this. Paulie knew Kakadana Kula, Mom. So, Mom, Joyce, Silo, stand up, please. Thank you. I love you for all you've done. Being a military brat, I did move around quite a bit, and Edgewood was my fourth stomping grounds. I was 10 years old. I was fortunate enough, a man named Ted Moyer decided to pick me on his baseball team, and of course I did play with Steve. Steve saw how fast I was, and Steve said, "You got to come and play football." And then all my other peers said, "You got to play football." It took them 3 to 4 years to get me on the football field because I was afraid. I ain't playing football. So thanks, Steve. You were quite a bit of that. But your dad was very instrumental to me. A couple other people that were my scoutmaster in Boy Scouts, Colonel Lottie. As I grew older, you had Bob Pierney, you had Forrest Weist, and you had, I'm going to say it, Uncle Bud Coakley. Everybody knows that nickname. Everyone's got a favorite uncle. I remember him once telling me if I didn't move a little bit faster, I'd have 3 feet. My 2 and his up my rump. But he didn't say rump. He didn't say rump. As I moved on in life, I had other people like Dick Fordyce and unfortunately Phil Albert, who was at Towson, who recently died in the last year and a half. I'd also like to thank, I'm no longer SAL commander, but I did it for like 5 years, and I had a lot of help in doing that. And I'd like to thank those people. None of them are here. And I also was heavily involved as an adult scoutmaster, cub master, and for the first 3 years, just trying to figure out what was going on. And so I just kind of laid low, but I volunteered and helped and did everything I could. So we had some great scouters. And I had some great teachers growing up. I had Jim Farrell, 5th grade at Cedar Drive Elementary School. It's now called Edgewood Elementary. Doug Johnson, 9th grade, very instrumental. Mr. Holsworth, I loved his intensity, him teaching U.S. history. Called me out a couple times. I didn't like that, but, and Forrest Weist, and of course I mentioned Bud Coakley. But here's my one of my favorite coaches, and if you're at my age, and I can see some of you are quite a bit my age, if you ever fell asleep on the couch and you woke up in the middle of the night, we woke up to the national anthem. And if that didn't wake you up, you woke up to the snow that was on the TV. Nowadays, if you wake up, it's a paid commercial, paid advertisement. This gentleman, Phil Hitchingham, paid me $10 to mention his name. Phil, you need to up your game because my son Colin offered me 15. But I'm not going after him, I'm going after you. Because you ever see a 22-year-old open his wallet for his dad? Not gonna happen. Naturally, my phone would ring and I thought I'd turn it off, but I had to work through that. So again, I wanna end it at this. Enjoy your lunches. I wanna congratulate all of you. Finally, I forgot to say this, but I wanna thank everyone who had anything to do with voting for me and getting me in this Hall of Fame. Like I said, I'm humbled. This is a beautiful thing, and thank you very much for that. And that's all. Enjoy your great lunch, and thank you all.
Got to make it official.
I just said everyone does that. We all turn around.
On behalf of Keelumac, principal of Edgewood High School, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Paul Sillo to the EHS Hall of Fame. Thank you. Absolutely. Congratulations. They're going to take a photo right here, Mr. Sillo. One more. It's the last thing, I swear.
I just want to add one more thing. I want everybody to stand and give Donnie Morrison a round of applause.
If you'll have a seat, we're almost at a close. I'm going to ask Mr. Klemmer to please give some closing remarks. Before I do, I really have to make it fit, but I just really appreciate the design today made to go with my outfit. And they're on sale out there for $10. I love this hat.
On behalf of the Edgewood High School administration, faculty, and students, and speaking for the EHS Alumni Association, I want to express our sincere congratulations to each of our 10 new members of the EHS Hall of Fame. Each of you richly deserves this award, and your presence in our Hall of Fame wall adds 10 more shining examples of how it should be done. A couple of closing reminders. You noticed the large posters of our 10 Hall of Fame inductees on your way in today. Inductees, those are yours to keep. Please pick up the poster with your likeness on it and take it home along with all the other awards you received today. Maybe hanging it next to the bed or wherever you'd like to. Those of you planning to stay for the luncheon, you've already received your table assignment. If you haven't had a chance to pay, please do so with Mrs. Helen Morrison and her helpers. You'll be directed by the staff of Bruno's Land and Sea Restaurant as to when and how you can get your food. I want to thank Mr. Quentin Stevenson, proud 2016 graduate of Edgewood High School, and the administrator here at the Epicenter for his cooperation in hosting us today. And now, to close our induction ceremony, here is Luke Erickson, Executive Pastor of Mountain Christian Church, for a blessing. Following the blessing, we'd like to ask all of the new inductees to report to the stage for a group photograph as well. Mr. Erickson.
All right. Well, hello. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And again, congratulations to all of you. Very inspiring to hear your stories. It's good to see you guys. Inspiring to hear your stories and all the accomplishments that are listed, but more than that, just the humility with which you carry yourself, the love you express for your community and for people. We're just grateful to welcome you. We just celebrated 8 years of being in this place with this building open. We have the Epicenter Community Center, Mountain Christian Church, Edgewood campus meets here, and we're here because we love Edgewood. And I think I'm in company of people who also share that love and passion for investing in this community. So we're delighted to host you. And I think now I'm the last one to stand in between you and lunch. So I'm going to thank God for the food, and then we'll get some further instructions on what to do there, and we'll enjoy a fantastic meal together. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for the opportunity to gather, for many people who worked hard to create this event, which of course reminds us of so much more. It reminds us of lives lived, investments that were made in this community by so many great people who have made this community what it is and made Edgewood High School what it is and continue to pour themselves out in service for this place and the people that are here. And so we think of legacy that has been left, and we're mindful of the commitments that have been made and the strength that has been brought to this community because of the people that we've celebrated today. And it reminds us of you, and we think of your enduring faithfulness to us and the ways that you have committed yourself to us in love, and we want to be people who respond to that and live in a way that expresses love to those around us and continues to invest in the people here so that ultimately this community would be lifted and people here could flourish in ways that would bring great delight to you and to all of us. So for all of that, we give you thanks, and we're especially mindful of how you provide for us in so many ways, and particularly now through food and just the opportunity to eat it and share this moment together. Be with us in this place. Bless those who have been inducted today and continue to fill and fuel their lives with goodness as they overflow with blessings to other people. Thank you again for the opportunity to be present here and for the food that is about to be set before us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so I think I'm giving some instructions. Don, you holler if I'm wrong. You can, we're going to transform this room. There's food out there. I've smelled it, and it's going to be ready to go in just a minute. We're going to bring some tables in, so we might be kind of scooting you around. You can get up from your seats as we set some tables in place. We'll gather some chairs around, and then someone will cue you to go get your food for lunch.
Follow me, oh, I'll be the river, 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 yes. Wherever you're standing, I'll be by your side. Through the good, through the bad, I'll never be hard to find. Thank you.